Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another unauthorized caucus. Hi, Mason. How are you?
Hi, Ryan. I'm good. Glad to be here with
Good.
you today.
Good. We're in different directions today, folks. We got a couple of things going on, some work travel, some electronic issues, and as a result, we're going to do this one remotely. But nonetheless, I am pretty sure that the conversation is going to get spicy for you all. So, remote together in the same room or not, it's going to be a good Thursday. But before we get too far into it, we've got a lot we want to. Well, I say a lot. We've got one particular topic we'd like to talk about today. I'm sure you can't guess what it is that we would like to discuss. But before we get to that, let me go ahead and remind you to get all of the pertinent information that we're going to talk about. If there's anything we're going to share afterwards, you need to be on the email list. And just in general, it's a good idea to be on that. Go to phyllisschlafly.com and sign up for it right now. You'll see a little pop-up banner. And don't forget, wherever you are, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, go ahead and hit that like and share and subscribe button set. Make sure to send the link along to a friend and make sure that you don't miss future videos and different topics we're going to cover because there's a lot of stuff going on. My goodness, is there a lot of stuff going on. So let's dive into it. Before we, Mason, before we get to the main event, I'd like to real quick just share with everyone part of what we were doing and where we were. And I want to have a couple of links, to send out afterwards. So make sure you go and subscribe to the email list. But this week I had the privilege of heading out to New Jersey. I was in D.C. and New Jersey for the first half of the week and got to attend one of the fundraisers of the Patriot Freedom Project. If you're not familiar with this group, you should. PatriotFreedomProject.com. Again, I'm going to send the link. They got a lot of really interesting things going on. But these are the folks. This is not very political in the sense that it's left or right, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat. It's pretty much none of that. This is an organization that came out of the woodwork to take care of the families of the prisoners of January 6th, the people who are being so horribly abused and denied basic rights, basic due process at the hands of an abusive political side of our government. So it is a really neat organization what they're doing, and I want to make sure and put that on your radar, because when you get to go and be in a room with these folks and talk to them, there are an incredible amount of powerful stories that are not getting out that everyone needs to hear. So I think they'll have an event of a video of the event up soon. Ed, on his radio program on the Pro America Report, actually talked a little bit about it, shared a couple of the stories, because you hear what's being done to these folks by federal prosecutors. It's horrible. I mean, it really is persecution and the weaponization of the power of government against the everyday American, people who can't afford it. And that's where places like Patriot Freedom Project have come from, to take care of those people who can't afford this, to take care of their families who've lost the breadwinner, who's been sitting in jail. There's still people who've had trials, but no sentencing hearings, even though the trials were months ago. It's ridiculous. This is not what we have come to expect in this country. And it's something that we need to shine a big light on. So I hope that you'll go and take a look at that. Again, I'm going to send some things, but we thought about, talking about that this week, and I want to make sure and send you the links, but there was something else that's been covered. Go listen to Ed's What You Need to Know About It. He's got a couple pertinent things there that you should hear. But then something else happened. Actually, two things happened. Mm-hmm. Which one did you watch live, Mason? I think I know, but we'll just go ahead and
and there might be a third thing today, third big piece of news today. Yeah,
a third big
piece
of news.
It is a very crazy time of the week for us to be doing this live stream.
Yeah.
I like how the entire American political system decided to plan around the weekly unauthorized caucus just so we would have plenty to talk about, just at the heart of all these matters. But last night, I watched the Republican National Convention debate. It was awesome. I was having a great time. 10 out of 10 experience. I really missed those a lot, because we didn't get to see the Republican ones in 2020. It's been since 2016 since we've had the real big, whole panel of everybody. I watched that last night, and this morning I watched the competing video, Trump with Tucker. And I last night I checked. I was like, I want to look at the view counts between these two things. And I know that Fox was airing in a lot of different places. It was on TV. It was on Rumble. It was probably on some other things too. But I just wanted, looking at the view counts on Rumble, Fox had something like 7,000 viewers, whereas Tucker had, at that point, I think about 80 million. He's up to 210 million views now.
212 million.
Oh,
It
wow.
was
Yeah, it's gone
207
up.
before we started the video. It's going millions every few minutes.
Yeah, it is truly remarkable how much of a force this has been. It's incredible to see. It makes me very happy, and I fully encourage everybody to at least watch the Trump interview. I mean, the debate is
Yeah.
a lot of the same old that we've seen, aside from the fact that there's new faces and it did get pretty spicy.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think of the debate, Ryan? Who do you
Well,
think
and
was
that's
strong?
I watched them in the same order you did, which, by the way, I'm looking up some numbers because you're right. I mean, I treat this like movie night, man. I had out a blanket. I had out, my beverage. I was propped up on a chair. This is the main event. I love political debates.
Mm-hmm.
And I know not everyone feels that way, which is why we're here, today with you to be able to break down some of what happened, because there were some very interesting dynamics. But I, like you, watched the Fox debate first, the GOP primary field-ish, the VP primary field, whatever we want to call it. I watched that one first, and then I went and watched the Tucker interview with Trump, which, by the way, one of the reasons I was so excited is because it has been 2 election cycles, 2 presidential cycles since we've had this. But I go back and look, and the third most watched debate ever, December 16, was 18 million. The record was 24 million. The Fox News debate in August of 2015. 24 million was the record for that debate. Now, I don't know where this one ranks yet, but that was more than doubled in the first few minutes by the Tucker-Trump interview. And now, I mean, I don't even want to do the math, but 212 million views versus the 30, it's absolutely bonkers. I mean, it's showing exactly what people do and don't care about, where they're interested in seeing. But yeah, before we get off into the Tucker Trump interview, I thought that the debate was actually very interesting. Of course, at this point, I mean, my assessment of it, and I'll just say from here on out, I'm not actually talking about my personal opinion. I'm just talking about what I think is going to happen. I think that my assessment of it at this point is that this is Donald Trump's primary to lose. And I don't put that statement out there because I put any stake in polling numbers. I think that those are usually a pretty steaming hot pile of garbage to deal with because those are so easy to manipulate and tinker. But I think that the momentum is inarguably there for him. And the more that they indict him and persecute him, this big, the cabal or the deep state, whatever name people want to put to it, the more they do to him, the more votes they seem to tag on, because everyone's looking around going, the people that I think ought to go away in a jail for a very long time are the ones who don't like you. So that makes me like you more. And I feel like they boost him every single time they persecute him or try. And it's starting to become almost a joke in and of itself, which, you alluded to that today. Trump supposedly is turning himself in to be processed. And I mean, it's not that he'll be in jail, but he will have a mugshot supposedly. We'll see if that happens. A lot of the others indicted in the Georgia case have had their mugshots coming out the last 24 hours. But yeah, there's last night was very interesting to see what I would call the first GOP primary debate in the post-Trump world, the Trump effect of 2015 and 16. Did you notice, like, this is the first time that we've watched, which you watched 2015 and 16, right, Mason? Pretty heavily. Mm-hmm. This was very different because some of the same old that we usually hear, this time it sounded really outdated. Was it just me, or did you get that sense too?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely something that came across, and I think that there were a lot of dynamics to that as well. Yeah, we're definitely seeing they're trying to keep up, especially the candidates it seemed like they were trying to keep up because Ryan and I were chatting a little bit about it last night, just kind of giving our live commentary to each other. And I was thinking that the way that they are acting is the post-Trump effect. Like everybody's much more on the attack than they were in 2015.
Yeah.
In 2015 and 16, all the candidates were very respectful and got up there like a good politician. Good little girls and boys up there on the stage, ready to give nice answers and well thought out answers and well prepared answers to all these questions, and maybe attack somebody else's policy or attack somebody else's record. But they were just like swinging last night.
Yeah.
And because that's what Trump did. Trump just ran in there and destroyed everybody and told Ted Cruz that his dad was the Zodiac killer and told Hillary Clinton that she was going to jail and just made a mockery of Jeb Bush. And he destroyed their credibility completely and utterly. So
Right.
everybody was trying to catch on to that. But the thing is, these people are still politicians who have their
Yes.
hired super expensive PR people and aren't the same TV personalities that Trump had developed himself into being. So
Mhm.
they're like, oh, we need to, you know, make this Trump effect kind of like scientific and like
Right.
see how we can apply this to our political messaging, but we don't want to go too far because we don't want to be bad, yada yada
Right.
yada, and it just comes across really awkwardly and pathetically, like in the case of Chris Christie, when he's every personal attack was just like, dude, be quiet.
And I mean that not only that, you're absolutely right. You've keyed in on something there that I feel like everyone tried to behave like Trump did because he just came in and broke the system. He did whatever he wanted, didn't behave in the standard decorum that we've come to expect from the debate stage, which I think is the reason so many of us loved him. Is out with decorum. Decorum is just the curtain that is hiding the sham of what you people are doing. So if that's that, then get rid of it. I don't want it anymore because I need to know the truth. And I want someone who I feel like is a bull in a china shop enough to tell me the truth. Everyone I feel like has seen that. And not everyone. There were definitely presence, people on the stage last night who were trying to create the presence of, well, I'm not going to do that. And that's fine. I don't have anything discouraging to say about that. I understand. But a lot of them were trying to participate in that kind of, rocky bar brawl type scenario, but they were so bad at it. You would hear someone start something and I was like, all right, we're throwing a punch now. And then they would pivot to this thing that I thought, what is this, 2004? And George W. Bush is going in for WMDs again? Like, what are you talking about? No one believes this anymore. It was so bipolar to me to see it fling from one side to the next where they're trying to behave like Trump, but then we're talking about Republicans, we're using Republican talking points from like 25 years ago. It was really astonishing. And I was blown away by watching those two things converge. And again, Trump dominating the stage despite not being there. And that even doesn't have anything to do with them talking about him, which they did a little bit last night. This is just how he has changed the American political system. We have crossed a giant hurdle into a new era, which I would argue is for the better. I'm willing to have that argument, though, because I do miss the days of statesmanship and oratory. But maybe that's just not the moment that we're at in America. But I could tell that some of these folks were trying. They were trying that style, and it either really didn't suit them very well, or they would just blunder it up with some ancient talking point. And I kept finding myself as a modern populist Republican voter sitting there looking at this going, y'all dinosaurs are not listening to us. You're repeating things that I'm pretty sure at this point conservative voters have repudiated pretty soundly. This isn't even a Trump thing. Like, this is a bigger deal. And it blew my mind. I was very shocked to see the convergence of those two worlds together. Be like Trump, but sound like Bush. It was bonkers.
Right. And the one person who I think did the best at that, without a doubt, who didn't absolutely flounder in his attempts to go on the attack like that, was Vivek. I was very impressed by his performance last night.
Yeah.
And because I do think that he was bold like Trump was. He's different than Trump in a lot of ways, but he had a similar boldness of Trump. He had despite the style differences, he had a similar kind of snark as Trump. Because it reminded me, I saw this 2015 clip a couple weeks ago. I don't remember which debate it was from, but Trump getting into something with Jeb Bush, and he's talking about how everybody in the audience is a donor, and he's the one that's not bought and paid for, and he's getting booed. And he's like, I'm getting booed right now because these are the funders of the Republican Party, and they are not the real American people. And it's like, and then Vivek almost quoted that word for word last night when he was talking about climate change. He was like, let's be honest here. I'm the only one here that's not bought and paid for, and just thunderous boos. But it's also like, it's true. And
it wasn't just thunderous boos. That was from the stage too. I heard Chris Christie's voice. Whoa, 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 whoa. But there were a lot of them on the stage when he said, I'm the only one not bought and paid for.
Right.
They took extreme exception to that, which, I mean, I hate to quote Shakespeare here. That is Shakespeare, right? That does protest this too much. It was very interesting to see what a rise he got.
And I see the comment from Love Horses, beware of Vivek's view on Israel and Taiwan. And yeah, Vivek has his issues. I have a lot of issues with Vivek. I don't love him. He had a great showing last night, but my point is that more than anybody else, he seems to be kind of in touch with what people want and what people want to hear. And I think his presence on the debate stage and the way that he clashed with the other candidates, which was interesting to see with DeSantis, he was very careful not to clash with Vivek, which I think was
Oh
very
man,
intelligent on his part, because
he
was
he
real
kept
quiet
in his little lane.
when Vivek was just stomping through Christie and Pence. DeSantis was just absolutely quiet. And when he spoke, he was speaking on things where he was like, I know Vivek will agree on these things. But I think that Vivek's presence on stage really showed the kind of way that these politicians are out of touch with a lot of them, especially Pence, how they're out of touch with America and Americans. Because when Vivek was talking about the loss of a sense of national identity and the issues with that, and how people like lack of sense of meaning, and that just seemed to go in one ear and out the other for Pence. And he was like, "No, Americans are awesome, and we love freedom, and we love liberty, and we love the Constitution."
Yeah.
And that's just not a response. Like I feel like a lot of these career politicians exist in a bubble where they don't really understand kind of the spiritual desolation of the United States. And although Vivek probably doesn't have the antidote, he recognizes that there is a spiritual desolation, whereas Pence was just thinking, oh, well, these are just problems in the government. And if we fix these problems in the government, if we just cut spending, which, these things that do need to happen, but he doesn't really recognize the core of a lot of the issues that are going on today. And I think that most of them didn't really, they kept using this like, oh, you're inexperienced, you're not a politician towards Vivek, but they don't did they forget 2016? That's what I want. Did they just forget 2016 completely? That is why that is one of the many reasons, but that is why Trump won, because he wasn't like the rest of them. He was the new guy. He wasn't just wrapped up in all this political crap that he had picked up throughout his entire life. So I don't know why they were trying to use that as an insult. It did not work.
Yeah, it's hard to gauge because the room was very interesting. I was surprised. And by the way, love horses. We have our suspicions of, we have our suspicions of everyone. We're good conservatives. We have conspiracy suspicions about everything, to be very honest. But I've got some. I don't like a lot of Vivek's positions on trade and on a few other things. It's not my cup of tea. But that being said, we're just talking specifically last night. What was said. There's a lot more to it than that. There's all these people have records of their own, even if it's not a political record. But as far as last night went, I did find it was interesting when the whole thing opened as they were introducing the candidates. I was actually surprised in this big GOP crowd because, the Republican Party, the RNC has stacked this room to their liking. So obviously there's fans of everyone there, but I was very shocked at the opening introductions to hear boos for Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson. Now, I feel that way. Like, I feel that way, that these two are probably some of the worst Republicans that do not represent the values that are very commonly held across the party and that we find in our party platform. I kind of look at it and wonder, why are you here? You are kind of the definition of rhino to me because you don't embody or agree with so many very key things inside the Republican Party. But one of the very interesting clashes for me, I'm not the biggest Mike Pence fan, I would have said, pre-yesterday. I'm not the biggest Mike Pence fan. I think it was a smart move for Trump to do in 2016 to pick him as a running mate. Mike Pence has always looked like a godly man, maybe a little bit unexciting and uninteresting as a politician, which that's desirable compared to some of the stuff that's going on out there. But that flipped for me last night because I would say out of just purely looking at the performance and not necessarily the lasting part of that these folks will have, which again, and I started to type, and I apologize, Phyllis, over on Rumble. I started to type, indeed. She says that didn't watch the debate, but there's no one who could possibly win the nomination. Maybe Vivek is a VP for Donald Trump. Bit disturbed by the Soros scholarship info. Yeah,
I'm thinking the same thing for Vivek for VP.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We all acknowledge that. I don't really think that at this point, any of these people are going to capture the nomination, period, unless something drastic happens that none of us can see coming, which arguably is why some of them are in, is not because they think they can beat Trump, but they think that Trump will be out. I really believe some of them think that. That's why they're here. But I was, it's very interesting to me that some of them have doubled down on things that are so out of touch with the American populace. And Pence was one of those for me last night, just purely on debate performances and how it went, ideas that they articulated, interacting with each other. I would have to say that Vivek won the whole thing for me. I thought that he did the best out of everyone last night. And honestly, I think that Pence did the worst. I really do, because he came across as pushy. He would not stop talking, even when he made his point and then left it to the other person. He kept interrupting. I know that people want to accuse Trump of doing that in 2015 and 16, and he did. He pushed the envelope, but he kind of got away with it. What do you think he should have or not? He did. And Pence can't get away with it. It just came off as curmudgeonly and weird, and he just doesn't have the personality for it. I don't know if he thinks because he was Trump's VP, he can try to get a hold of it, but it was just so odd last night. He seemed to be the one that was most out of touch. When Nikki Haley gave a comment about something, it was foreign policy related, whatever it was, that was where Pence said something to the effect of, and I think I texted you this, something to the effect of, well, we can't have consensus. We have to do what's right. And I think that we all agree here. And I was like, but you just described consensus. Like, what are we doing? And then the same thing, you pointed that out a little bit later when he and Vivek got into it. I was kind of surprised and shocked I was surprised at how far Vivek was willing to identify the problem in America. This is not just a problem in the government. We have a sickness that has only a cultural, ultimately a spiritual cure for our people. The family unit, the greatest institution. That I appreciated that line so much. Again, I got my misgivings about the guy, but he was right on point with that one. He drove home over and over that this is a sickness that will not be fixed with politics. It must be fixed at a higher and a more fundamental level. And I was absolutely appalled to watch this guy who has, for all intent and purposes, preached, the gospel almost in all of his political career, including last night. Very ceremonious tellings of his encounters with Jesus Christ. And I'm not trying to discredit those, but when you're professing that kind of faith on stage, Mike Pence, when someone else correctly identifies what you ought to know, what all of us know is the actual foundational problem with America that needs to be addressed. All this is just a Band-Aid, this political show. It's very disturbing when you don't acknowledge that, even if you want to take it farther because you don't want someone else to get points during the debate. But he seemed to kind of dismiss it to the side. And, well, you're just telling a hopeless, nasty story. You should tell the hopeful one. Oh, well, you should talk about, we just need government to get out of the way and be more like the people. And Vivek saying, no, the people are broken, sinful creatures. Dude, this is a decent representation of where we are. We need revival. And I'm just sitting back going, any illusions that anyone had about Mike Pence maybe being a good guy but just boring are kind of shattered because someone is dangling such obvious truth. And again, like a lot of people on the stage didn't seem to quite resonate or understand where Vivek was going. And I don't know, they don't have this big profession of faith like some of them do. I don't expect them to necessarily publicly go that way, but I was encouraged to hear that coming out of his mouth. He hammered it home multiple times, and I was actually shocked to see the response that he got from some of the folks who I think were just so wrapped up in "don't be outdone, give the better line." I was incredibly. That one was a surprise for me. I think that was my biggest surprise of the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a wild ride. I think my favorite moment of the entire night was when they're doing the lightning round questions and they move to Chris Christie and ask him about UFOs, and he's like flabbergasted. Just, you're giving me the UFO question? I think that's what every single person in the world was asking at that moment. It's like, okay, like, this is so weird. Like, nobody really cares that much about this,
Yeah. Oh, folks, we've run out of questions. Governor Christie, what about unidentified flying object?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was particularly interesting. Well, funny. Nothing interesting really came out of that. It was just hilarious.
Yeah. It was a wild ride. It was utter chaos. I loved it. I had a great time. I would watch it. In fact, I may watch it again just for fun. But Chinese, not UFOs. Love Horses reminds us these are not UFOs. They are not UAPs. These are Chinese blips on our radar systems. I actually don't disagree with that.
Perhaps even our own blips, our own secret technology that we're testing, and they, regardless.
Regardless,
I want to talk about the hand raising moment.
I was about to say, let's hit a couple more debate moments. And folks, we may go a touch over 30 minutes today because we got to get into we want to get into some of the Trump Tucker interview, which I think probably not as much content to talk about there, but still something I want to talk about. Yeah, the hand raising, that was weird.
It was that is another moment where it was obvious that Vivek got it and nobody else did. Like he immediately knew what was going on, and he was like, yes, because he knows that like if he wants to be president. Which I don't even know if he wants to. I don't know if he wants to be president or if he is actively gunning for VP. But either way, you have to get the Trump people on your side if you're going to do that. And everybody else was alienating the Trump people in one way or another, some worse than others. But Vivek was just like, no, I stand by Donald Trump. I will pardon him if I become president. And like Pence would not agree to the same, which was remarkable. That the own president that he was in the White House in the White House with, that he wouldn't pardon him. But it was hilarious. It was very awkward. Vivek's hand was up instantly. Everybody on the right raised their hands, and then
it started to kind of.
DeSantis was like, "Oh, I should probably do that too." And Mike Pence was like,
Chris
"I should
Christie,
do that."
When you're arguing with the debate moderator saying, "I didn't raise my hand. I was going like this," I'm like, "Yeah, if you're arguing, you're out. You're done. You're toast this early in. That you shouldn't have to." That was weird though. I gotta say, out of all the whole night, which I miss the old Ron DeSantis.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say it. I feel like Ron DeSantis at a podium going back and forth with the media has been superb since he has been governor. And I feel like, I don't know if he was just finally eclipsed by people who've done this a lot on both sides of him. Or if he's actually shocked at where they are, how his campaign has done a lot of floundering. He was not on point for what I was expecting last night. I have seen him go full bore, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders on the media from behind his podium in the governor's position in Florida. And I missed that last night. He really did kind of look like eyes straight ahead. Don't look at anyone. Don't engage. They won't talk to me, because it was chaos. Everyone else going back and forth over him. If I were him, I'd have done the same thing, frankly, just to try to like avoid conflict, to stay on message. But that was the one thing I appreciated with the hand holding. This is what I think of it with the hand raising. I did appreciate when he comes in and he's like, "Okay, what are we, school children? No, I'm not going to raise my hand, but I'll answer the question if you want me to." And I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." The hand raising is weird. This is odd. Show of hands is not a presidential.
I liked it because it put them on the spot in a way where they have to react to something and they don't have like a rehearsed bit. It's kind of it's a yes or no type thing.
That's true. It's valid.
And that's a normal question. That's a normal question. I think they asked that question in 2015-16 as well. Like, will you stand by the Republican nominee no matter what? And they were just like, okay, well, will you stand by Trump no matter what if he's the Republican nominee?
And Asa Hutchinson has it figured out because he's going to be a felon. So we can't, according to the RNC rules, support him as the nominee. So I know that I'm not going to have to. So sure, I'll sign the pledge. It's very, he's got it all figured out. He's got it all figured out.
Well, we should talk about Trump on Tucker.
Yeah, I was going to say, was there anything else on the debate? I don't think I had anything. That was it for me. I was the best performance, I think, of the night for me was Vivek. The worst, or most surprisingly worst performance, was Pence. And there were a lot of good things said. There were a lot of needed things said in there. Trump and Tucker. We both just watched it. Well, a little bit last night, a little bit this morning for me. It was late by the time the debate got over East Coast time where I was. So that was a little bit too much for me to tune into and enjoy. But what did you think of the Tucker Trump interview, which has vastly eclipsed any other media event of the year?
Yeah, it was very good. I think. I mean, when I saw the trailer for it before I actually watched it, it was like getting me really excited when it was just showing the questions that he was asking, and it was because Tucker was really asking him some surprising questions that I would not expect somebody to be able to ask a former president, about a former and hopefully future president. Did Epstein kill himself? Are they going to try to kill you? Is there going to be a civil war? Like these are insane questions that you usually I have not heard these kind of questions asked since the Civil War. That's the last time any of this even would have been on the table as legitimate questions. So it was quite wild. And Trump did a great job. He seems very confident in going forward. He doesn't
cool
seem
and collected.
scared. He seems to honestly believe that the debate is who's going to be his vice president. And I think Vivek's the only one that got that at the debate when Trump truthed out. I might watch to see who I will pick for vice president. And he truly believes that, and rightfully so, because he talks about how he's just polling miles ahead of a lot of these people, and he is. So yeah, I think that it was a very strong showing from Trump. It got people excited. It shows that, okay, this man knows what he's doing. We actually get to hear him out, unlike all those other people on stage. We get to hear his long form answers. We get to hear him talk for 45 minutes. Yeah, it was a great move.
It was good. Yeah, it was a fantastic move. I think it was, I mean, from his perspective, it was absolutely the right one to make, to not put yourself on stage and make credible what is so far in the polls, at least, not even remotely close to credible. Don't subject yourself to that. For what? It's not like it's close. I wouldn't either. But it was very interesting because, to your point, I far prefer hearing this kind of thing over the debate stage. Now, I'm one who kind of likes it when the moderators lose control and everyone just starts going at each other, because then it goes off script and you really do get to see a little bit of like how people respond in the heat of the moment, what points they're going to make, if it's really rehearsed or if they just can't handle it because it's off script. I don't mind that so much, but outside of that, I'd rather hear the long form answers. And I was very kind of surprised with Trump's tone. He was very calm and even and collected. The bombastic nature was completely gone, the big public persona. And I mean, I got to agree. I see Elon Musk's reply to this tweet is the first one currently sitting under it, now at almost 216 million views, 4 more since when we began, going up and up. But he said, interesting to hear things directly versus through the media filter. And I think that is one of the most interesting things that came out of this. You talked to, which Tucker did. Tucker asks him, to your point, tons of questions, but he asks Trump about all the stuff about the indictments and January 6th and all this different thing. To hear Trump talk about it, like with what Mike Pence should or shouldn't have done. And he says, well, I thought he could do it. Well, in fact, some of his lawyers thought he could do it. Some didn't. He decided not to. I understand, but I think he could have done it. And if he couldn't have done it, why did they change the law afterward to say that the vice president can't do that? Kind of makes me think he could have done it. And they're all lying for saying that he couldn't have. And you hear this and you go, you know what, that's a good point. And you go and look it up and realize they did pass a law to specifically do that. So it's kind of definitely pretty much a lie. When they said that he couldn't do it before, it's like, oh, he could. Now he can't, but he could then. So you're literally feeding me a lie over and over again when they say, whether it's Pence or the media or anyone else, oh, I couldn't have done that. That wasn't allowed. That wasn't illegal. It wasn't legal according to the law. You're actually lying to me.
Right.
But thanks to Trump having a moment to just talk it out, and then me being able to go and verify it, not that difficult and not that much time taken to find out, oh, he's right. Well, that does pretty much settle that one for me, what could or couldn't have been done. That was, I think, the biggest benefit of the Trump-Tucker interview, is to just watch that kind of stuff play out. And then from there, all you got to do is go off and do a little bit of research and verify whether it's true or not. We are in a world of what you believe to be true really matters as to who you listen to. And the problem with that is that those of us, I think, who listen to the source material, who invest the time in this, we're also going and looking at this stuff and researching to see if it's true or not. People who just pick it up from the news blindly, that's not only the most untrustworthy one, but y'all are the ones who aren't going and researching things and actually trying to find out what is or isn't true, how did or didn't it happen. This is a great opportunity, but I'm very afraid that a lot of people don't take it because they're listening to the liar saying, don't listen to him, he's a liar. And they're not going out to find out what is the truth and who's actually lying. They're just taking the word of one side or another, whichever one's more comfortable for them.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. It's it's good to see. I agree with what Love Horses says. The long form interview is revolutionary in media, very helpful.
Yeah.
And that's a fantastic trend that we've been seeing. And I think that's why we're probably not going to see, big like TV events anywhere near what they have been in the past, because, Joe Rogan did so much to show that, oh, this is way better. And you can hear so much more from people as he just, so many people pass through a show onto stardom, like such as Jordan Peterson, and it's like when you sit down and listen to somebody for a long time, it's like you're going to hear a real person rather than the old TV. Like that. Okay, this is where I disagree with what Trump said, which is a very minor point. But when it was like TV might be able to come back if these like big mainstream media sources get their stuff together. But I think it's a more of an issue with TV as a medium rather than the actual actors. Than the messages they're putting out. The medium is the message, as McLuhan says, and which is why the whole internet age has made this way better. And like Tucker's reach is ginormous now. It completely eclipses what he had on Fox News, as far as I understand, and it's incredible to see because I don't know, I don't think we really saw much like this in previous presidential races. Joe Biden isn't going to sit down for an hour-long interview. He would fall asleep, and like they'd have to give him his medicine every 15 minutes and keep going on breaks. And in 2016, or I know it was like 2020, we did see like Bernie on Rogan and a few small things like that. But for the former president to go and sit down for a long-form discussion where you can't just be like totally prepped out and you have like all these little, you just have these short little responses. It's like, okay, well, Trump obviously prepped for that and probably had the questions beforehand, but he's able to sit there and think about it.
Especially with Tucker, who is very obviously just meandering through the conversation and going with stuff. There's no prep for that.
Just talking about what he's interested in, and then Trump is like, okay, he's interested in this. I can talk about this, and that is what we need. That should be the standard probably for big presidential debates, because that really is what we had before. The Lincoln Douglas debates, those went on for like hours and hours and hours with them just talking to each other and making these giant speeches back and forth. And that's what American political debates were throughout most of our history. And then the TV comes in and ruins that. And I think we're getting that back thanks to the dominance of the internet. Which I think is only a good thing for our elections and having informed voters and being able to make our right decisions at the voting booths.
No, I agree with you, and I think that I've talked about this before, and I see a few comments piling up. By the way, I'm paying attention. We're watching. We see the Rumble crowd. For those who aren't aware, the Rumble crowd, which currently is one vocal person in the chat, is trying to get all the YouTube people to come over to Rumble, and this is a very exciting thing that we're watching here in the background, which I must say I actually agree. We've been a little slower to the Rumble side because their user interface is a little more difficult, and YouTube is just super smooth to get on and live stream, but YouTube is super untrustworthy, and at this point Rumble's pretty much proven themselves trustworthy. So you never know, we might make our way over to just Twitter and Rumble at some point if we get enough community strikes, which we've got a few on YouTube. So that's fun to see going on. Wherever you guys are in the chat, we're going to watch for you. We'll find you and we'll respond to you. But I have argued, and this is probably, I'll close it, for me at least, I'll close it down. This will be my final thoughts because I don't want to keep people too much longer. I've argued that we have the 2016 election cycle really brought us over a hurdle into a new generation of media as far as politics and culture goes. I think that we had that with the advent of TV and radio, being able to bring those kinds of live audio and images into people's homes. And then as that built and grew into something that was editable and had advertisements and had all this other stuff, there you saw the next generation was, I would argue, Reagan in the 80s saying, I'm just going to skip this thing. Interviews, traditional media. I'm going to do TV broadcasts, but I'm going to go straight from the White House. I'm not going to go through an interviewer. I'm not going to go through a debate stage. I just want to talk directly to you. It kind of reminds you of what FDR did with the fireside chats. I'm just going to skip the moderators and go straight to the people. Trump did the same thing. Now, not that we haven't had social media, but the way that Trump used his own Twitter account throughout 2014 to 16, as this was gearing up in the campaign, even as president, that was a massive leap, a huge change that I think has brought credibility to the world of doing that kind of direct to the consumer media. And I feel like, to your point, what I worried would be the death of communication in America, the shorthand social media experience. I feel like now that shorthand social media experience is turning into long form podcasts, long form videos, long form live streams. And thank you to Joe Rogan and a bunch of other people who pioneered long form podcasting. And then thank you to Trump for bringing people to this world of why would you go through Fox News when you could just tweet directly to all of your people? And now Tucker, I'm going to just get on here and post the videos here. I really feel like that shift is happening, and it's going to bring a new accessibility to this stuff. I hope that it brings, to my point earlier, I greatly hope that it brings a renewed interest in it, that people want to know, want to hear, and then want to go find out and verify more. Because they really have been just, I say we as a culture have really truly been stupefied by the scrolling and advertisement based media model. It has just sucked us in through the science of getting our brains to do what they want us to do. And to be able to break free of that and go into a long conversation, even if you're not there watching Lincoln and Douglas debate from the 2 tree stumps or podiums, but listening to it or watching the video, I think that kind of long form content may actually do a good amount to, I hate to say save America because it's not that simple, but that may do a good amount to turning us back toward the right direction, to getting people not only the information they want, but getting people to want more information. I think that both of those are incredibly necessary.
Yeah. And I guess the last thing I'll add is I am just simply amused by the irony of Twitter once being a place where you couldn't get past 120 characters. And now there are hour-long interviews with some of the most important people in the entire world. And people are watching them.
It's not Twitter now, it's X.
X, yes.
So X.
Well, it was Twitter when it was 120 characters, but anyway.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But yeah, that's all I've got.
Okay. And I'll make one. I see one comment. Yeah, someone says the only way I knew what Trump was accomplishing when he was in the White House was because of his YouTube channel. That's the only way we knew. Over here, someone talking about the RNC. We've got the Rumble people are watching the YouTube people and replying on Rumble now. Y'all are making this very confusing and difficult. I'm gonna have to put these on the same screen next time if we're gonna have conversations cross platform.
I haven't been able to see the Rumble chat.
Well, I'm on Rumble because it doesn't integrate to the software. Okay. So yeah, welcome to the behind the scenes, folks. You're getting this here at the end. But no, someone's actually questioning the RNC. Is the RNC even viable? Why do we need it? At first, I thought someone was suggesting that we run the RNC, which I'm not opposed to, but then they were saying we're just great. Why do we even need the RNC? So maybe she's saying we're better than the RNC?
Well, I think we definitely are. And I think that the consensus across the United States is that we should be put in charge.
Well, you know what? The consensus across Rumble and YouTube right now is at least that we should be put in charge. I tell you what, though, here's your homework. Sound off. I want to hear from people because this actually running into election season, kind of tagging onto the back of this, when someone says, why do we even need the RNC anymore? That leads to the very interesting discussion of two-party versus multi-party system. Not that the Republican National Committee in itself represents how the two-party system has to be done. It doesn't. But I think that it represents one of the inevitabilities of a two-party thing. And there's also inevitabilities in a multi-party thing. And we've obviously, Phyllis here at our organization for a long time has a history of not supporting third-party endeavors or multi-party systems. I think that might be worth an entire episode, Mason. I don't know if you agree, but I think that could be a really interesting discussion. Shoot us an email. There's your homework. Email me, Ryan@phyllisschlafly.com or info@phyllisschlafly.com. We'll pick it up. Go to phyllisschlafly.com now and sign up for the emails so you get the links that we're going to send out. I promise today will not only include resources, it will in fact include memes because I found too many to not share. There have to be a couple of memes. So you want to be on the email list and then shoot us an email. Tell us if we should talk about 2 versus 3 party. I think that could be a good one.
Yeah, I think that could definitely be good. Thank you for the recommendation. Love horses. That's a
yeah. It wasn't given as a recommendation, but I'm taking it as a recommendation in true Trump fashion. Whether you meant it or not, that's where we're going. Please, there we go. So
make sure to like and subscribe.
That's it. Like and subscribe. Share this video with someone else. We went a little bit long today, but it was a heck of a lot shorter than watching the whole debate last night. So I think that there's some good nuggets in here. For conservatives who want to know kind of what was going on but don't want to watch the whole thing, send them this video. I think that we covered a few of the big things that they should hear and know about in a pretty good way. We're not bringing our personal choice into this, but just kind of what happened. And yeah, let's regroup. Let's do it again next week. Mason, hopefully you and I will be in the same room again. Although we do have lovely bookshelves behind us here. It's, learned men. We like to think of ourselves as, because each of us have read every single volume on these shelves. So the quietness speaks for itself. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next Thursday at noon for another Unauthorized Caucus. Go sign up for the emails, and I'll send you that to everyone later this evening. We appreciate you being here with us, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.